recall of that first meeting with Vince McMahon? How was him, besides the ownership and the businessman part, how was him approaching you as a human being that night?
You mean the first time when we didn't make the deal?
The first dinner.
Great. You know what? He flew me in. I went to his house and had dinner with his family. And he treated me like I was just, he treated me great. I mean, he was very, he understood. I mean, they were not giving out guaranteed contracts at that time. It was like, you got to prove yourself and you have to, you get paid by the house, how big the house was and everything else. So, and I already had a big guaranteed deal. So I wasn't going to lose out on that. He completely understood. He shook my hand and gave me a hug, and off I went. But I always felt like we would do business someday. And then when it was time, he said, I'll give you your guaranteed contract. But it opened the doors for all the wrestlers to get guaranteed contracts and big contracts that made mine look tiny at that time,
And, you mentioned that your dream was to wrestle at WrestleMania. For that, you needed to sign with the WWF. So you signed with the company at that point. But how did you felt going through that curtain in your first match? Do you remember your opponent? Do you remember how the audience felt at that moment? The energy you felt going through that curtain that night?
My first match with WWF, I could actually remember, I could picture the whole match. Obviously a lot of nerves being the new guy. And they gave me this, when I went to WWF Creative to figure out what character, because we couldn't use Johnny B. Bad. It was trademarked by WCW Wrestling. So they came up with this character called Wild Man, my real name, Marc Mero. And I never really connected with it. I remember in the meeting, Vince said to me, can you do a Tarzan yell? And I thought, no, I don't got a very strong voice. So I told I don't see myself doing that, I even tried it, but I'd never connected with the character Wild Man. I mean, Johnny B was so off the wall, was so opposite of who I really am. And it was just a flamboyant, outrageous character that was fun to play. It was like just acting, but Wild Man Marc Mero was too close to home. I think it just didn't really sit well with me, and I never really connected with it, and I don't think the audience really connected with it. But my first match was against Isaac Yankem, who obviously became Kane,
96.
And again, a guy that knew his position at the time was to do the job for me, and he did everything to make me look good and shine me my first match with WWF, and everyone was happy. We didn't really know what finisher I was using. I think I used a sunset flip off the top rope to beat him, if I can remember correctly, but it just didn't I didn't have the finisher, because we weren't going to bring the boxing punch, the tutti frutti from WCW over.
And whose idea was to pair you up with, at that moment, your former wife, Sable? You were the wrestler, she was the manager, but we saw this interesting dynamic that at that point it wasn't seen before anywhere else. So who came up with this incredible idea?
Well, it's funny you asked that, because that was part of my contract negotiations. I was married to her real name is Rena. I was married to Rena while I was with WCW as Johnny B. Bad for many years. And when I brought her, we were married 10 years. And I remember bringing her over to WWF. I said to Vince, Vince, one of the deals I want, obviously you gave me my signing bonus, you gave me my guaranteed contract, but I want my wife flying everywhere I fly. Now, this is before you ever even seen her, or I even asked them to let her be my valet. And he said, wow, that's the strangest request I've ever had. He goes, no one's ever asked to fly their wife with them. But see, I seen everybody going through divorce, and I thought, you know what, if we're together, we can make it, we can live this experience, travel all over the world together. And then so I said to Vince, after he agreed to it, I said, do you mind if I use her for my valet, since she's going to be traveling everywhere I go anyways? He goes, let's just worry about you right now. So he flew me to New York, to Stamford, Connecticut, to sign my deal. And when he sent me my plane ticket, there was only one. So I called him up. I said, hey, Vince, there's only one ticket here. I go, my wife flies everywhere I fly. He goes, to sign a contract? I said, she goes everywhere I go. So sure enough, Vince sent the ticket for my wife. He flies us both in. And when she walks in his office with me, he goes, I got to put her on TV. And that's the beginning of, then we came up with the name Sable. And that was the beginning, how it all started.
And, to take that since we are already on this topic, how was your experience working with her, but not as your manager, but as your rival? I mean, at that point, we saw intergender matches, but it wasn't that common. So that this really, I mean, the power bomb, I had that image still in my head, and you sold it so perfectly well. I mean, you didn't have an ego problem. You work simply to raise the business and raise her as well as a star. So how was your experience working with her as your rival?
We had so much fun. A lot of people say, well, you killed your career letting a woman beat on you, but you got to remember something. They were backing up the Brinks truck to our house at the time. We were a married couple, we're in this together. It's a business deal that we're making. It wasn't like, I was doing it with somebody else. I did it with my own, it was my own family. And if I race, remember, I'm getting a guaranteed contract. I'm getting paid the same no matter whether I win or lose. Now we're raising her profile where she's selling, other than selling more merchandise at that time was like Stone Cold Steve Austin. She was doing amazing. So what a blessing that was to do that, to work with her. And not only that, teach her how to wrestle. I mean, she was doing, she did a hurricanrana off the top rope. She's doing all the moves I did, my TKO. She did the power bomb. They called it the Sable bomb. And these were moves that I was using in the ring that we just let her do it. But obviously doing it to me, it was a lot safer because I could go with her and really do a good job and sell it the way she needed to be sold.
And what do you remember the night you won the Intercontinental Championship for the first time? What was the first thing that came through your mind once you hold the gold and look at it like, I made it. I finally made it. This is my big chance.
It was the approval of the company to say, we're giving this guy the belt. I mean, I think of the guys I went against that. It was a tournament for the Intercontinental title. I beat Owen Hart. I beat Stone Cold Steve Austin. I beat Ron Simmons, Farouk. And, to be put over guys like that, it was just an amazing accomplishment in the sense that they chose me to hold the strap.